They never tell you this directly. No one ever sits you down and explains it. But once you hear it, you'll realize how many moments you misunderstood, how many signals you ignored, and how many opportunities passed right in front of you without you even knowing they were there. This isn't about tricks, lines, or surface level confidence. This is about something far deeper, something psychological, almost invisible yet incredibly powerful. Most men believe attraction is obvious. They think if a woman is interested, she'll say it clearly, show it loudly, or make it undeniable. That belief is the reason so many men stay confused, because real attraction doesn't shout, it whispers, it hides inside casual sentences, harmless questions, and moments that feel ordinary. Unless you know what you're listening for. You've probably heard these phrases before. You just didn't know what they meant. A comment that seemed random. A question that felt unnecessary. A moment of silence that lingered longer than it should have. And you moved on, unaware that interest was forming right in front of you. What you're about to hear will permanently change how you interpret those moments. Once you understand how attraction actually reveals itself, you can't unsee it. You'll start noticing patterns in conversations. You'll recognize why certain women felt drawn to you without you ever trying. And more importantly, you'll understand why chasing, impressing, and over-explaining have never worked the way you hoped. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about recognizing what's already happening beneath the surface and learning how not to destroy it. Because the most attractive men aren't the loudest, the smoothest, or the most aggressive. They're the ones who understand what others overlook. Stay with me until the end, not because this will hype you up for a moment, but because it might quietly change the way people respond to you for the rest of your life. Most men grow up believing attraction announces itself loudly. They expect compliments, direct statements, obvious pursuit. But attraction, especially from younger women, doesn't work that way. It rarely arrives as a declaration. It arrives disguised as language that seems ordinary on the surface, but is loaded underneath. And the men who don't understand this miss opportunities, not because they aren't attractive, but because they don't know how attraction speaks. Here's the psychological truth. When a woman is genuinely drawn to a man, her mind goes into evaluation mode before her emotions fully commit. She's observing, measuring, testing safety, excitement, and potential all at once. In that stage, direct compliments feel risky. They reveal too much too soon. So instead, attraction leaks out in phrases that allow her to express interest without fully exposing herself. That's why the words matter more than the tone, and the pattern matters more than the sentence itself. When a younger woman says something like, "You're not what I expected," she's not commenting on coincidence. She's reporting a cognitive disruption. Her assumptions have been challenged. She had a mental model of who you were supposed to be, and you violated it. In psychology, that moment is powerful because the brain pays more attention to what surprises it. Predictable people fade into the background. Unexpected ones demand focus. Attraction begins where attention is forced to reorganize itself. Many men respond poorly here. They rush to explain. They try to soften the edge. They laugh nervously or ask what she meant. But attraction isn't asking for clarification. It's inviting stillness. The man who understands this doesn't scramble to manage her perception. He allows the disruption to exist. He's comfortable being slightly misunderstood because he knows that mystery, when paired with consistency, is magnetic. Another phrase that reveals far more than it seems is, "You're different from other guys." This isn't flattery. This is categorization. She's mentally separating you from the mass. Humans simplify the world by grouping people together. When she removes you from that group, she's assigning you special status. That's a significant psychological move, especially for younger women who are constantly filtering attention. But here's where most men fail. They respond by denying it. They say, "No, I'm just normal," or I'm nothing special. What they think is humility is actually self-erasure. Attraction requires permission to see you as distinct. When you reject that permission, you collapse the dynamic. Then there are the phrases that sound harmless but are actually diagnostic. Why are you so calm? That's not a casual observation. Calmness signals regulation. It tells her your emotions aren't easily hijacked by external chaos. In a world of emotional volatility, calm is read as strength. Younger women are especially sensitive to this because they've been around men who overact, overtext, overexplain, and overperform. When you don't do that, it creates contrast, and contrast creates interest. The same applies when she says, I feel comfortable around you. Many men assume comfort kills attraction. That's only true when comfort equals boredom. But comfort paired with presence signals trust without loss of tension. It means she can relax without feeling like the dynamic has gone flat. That balance is rare. It suggests emotional safety without emotional dullness. If she says this, you're already inside her inner evaluation loop. Another revealing phrase is, you make me think. This isn't about intelligence alone. It's about mental engagement. You're not just filling time, you're occupying cognitive space. In philosophical terms, you've disrupted her habitual way of seeing things. When someone makes us think, they linger. The mind revisits conversations, replays moments, builds meaning after the interaction ends. Attraction deepens not during the conversation, but afterward in the quiet moments when the mind keeps returning. Then there's humor, not laughter at jokes, but playful teasing. When a younger woman teases you, she's testing emotional proximity. Teasing is safe intimacy. It allows her to step closer without committing. If she jokes with you more than others, it's not accidental. It's selective attention expressed through play. Men who understand this don't escalate too fast. They match the energy without overpowering it. They allow the rhythm to build naturally. One of the most misunderstood phrases is, how are you still single? This isn't curiosity, it's valuation. She's trying to reconcile your perceived value with your current availability. High-value men don't look desperate to be chosen. They look like they already are. When she can't solve that contradiction, interest intensifies. The mistake men make here is answering defensively or explaining their past. The man who understands attraction doesn't justify himself. He lets the question hang. He knows his life speaks louder than his words. What all these phrases have in common is this: they are expressions of attraction that protect vulnerability. Younger women are socially conditioned to manage risk. Direct desire exposes them. Indirect language allows them to test the waters while maintaining control. And the men who succeed are the ones who don't force clarity where ambiguity is still doing its work. The deeper philosophical layer is this: attraction isn't about convincing someone to like you. It's about allowing someone to discover you without interference. Language becomes the bridge between curiosity and desire. When you learn to listen instead of perform, you stop chasing validation and start recognizing alignment. And here's the final truth most men never hear. If you need attraction to be loud, you're not listening closely enough. The strongest signals are often whispered. The man who learns to hear them doesn't rush, doesn't panic, and doesn't try to secure outcomes. He stays present, he stays grounded, he lets attraction unfold, because when you understand the language of subtle interest, you stop trying to be chosen. You become someone worth discovering. One of the most misunderstood forces in attraction is emotional control. Men are taught, directly or indirectly, that intensity equals interest, that reaction equals passion, that the more you show, the more it proves you care. But attraction doesn't respond to excess, it responds to regulation. And when younger women are drawn to a man's calm, what they're responding to is not passivity, but power that doesn't need to announce itself. When a woman says, "Why are you so calm?" she isn't commenting on mood. She's noticing your nervous system. She's registering that you are not governed by impulse. In psychological terms, emotional regulation signals internal security. It suggests you're not dependent on external validation to feel stable. And that quality is rare, especially in a culture where most interactions are reactive, rushed, and emotionally noisy. Calmness is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. A calm man still feels desire, excitement, curiosity. He simply doesn't leak it. He doesn't let it dictate his behavior. Younger women are highly attuned to this distinction because they've experienced the opposite. Men who overtext, overpraise, overpursue. Men whose emotional state rises and falls based on attention. That instability may feel flattering at first, but it quickly becomes exhausting. Calm, by contrast, feels expansive. There is something deeply grounding about being around a man who doesn't need to react to everything. Silence doesn't threaten him. Delays don't provoke anxiety. Uncertainty doesn't cause him to perform. This steadiness communicates a quiet message. I trust myself, and when someone trusts themselves, others begin to trust them too. This is why phrases like, "I feel comfortable around you," carry so much weight. Comfort in this context isn't about predictability, it's about emotional safety. It means she can show up without managing your reactions. She doesn't feel responsible for stabilizing you. That freedom is attractive because it allows desire to grow without fear of consequences. The mistake many men make is assuming comfort kills attraction. In reality, it's the absence of emotional control that kills it. Emotional chaos creates tension, but not the kind that lasts. Sustainable attraction requires a nervous system that feels regulated. Younger women, especially, are navigating their own emotional development. When they encounter a man who is steady, who doesn't amplify drama or seek it, it creates contrast. And contrast is the foundation of desire. This is also why composure under pressure is so attractive. When things don't go as planned, how you respond matters more than what you say. A calm response signals competence. It suggests you've faced uncertainty before and survived it without losing yourself. Philosophically, this is about self-mastery. A man who can govern his inner world doesn't need to dominate the outer one. His presence does the work. Another phrase that often appears is, "You don't react like most people." That's not accidental. She's noticing that you don't mirror chaos. You don't escalate emotions unnecessarily. You don't rush to defend or explain yourself. In a world addicted to reaction, restraint stands out. Restraint creates space. And in that space, attraction breathes. The deeper psychological layer here is predictability versus reliability. Reactive men are predictable. They always respond the same way, quickly, emotionally, impulsively. Calm men are reliable. They may not be immediately readable, but they are consistent over time. Younger women learn, often through experience, that reliability is safer and more attractive than predictability. One feels controlled, the other feels grounded. Calm presence also changes the pace of interaction. When you're not rushing, you allow moments to unfold naturally. You listen fully, you respond thoughtfully. This slows the dynamic in a way that deepens connection. Desire doesn't thrive in haste. It thrives in attention, and attention requires stillness. There's also a philosophical element of self-respect embedded in calmness. When you don't overreact, you're communicating boundaries without speaking them. You're showing that your emotional energy is valuable, that it's not available to anyone who pulls on it. Younger women sense this and respond to it because it signals discernment. You're not chasing every stimulus. You're choosing where to invest. This is where many men confuse confidence with dominance. Dominance seeks control over others. Confidence comes from control over oneself. Calm men don't need to assert superiority. They don't interrupt. They don't compete unnecessarily. They don't seek to win every exchange. Their assurance is internal. And that internal stability is what others feel. The paradox is this: the less you try to appear attractive, the more your presence does the work. Emotional control creates an atmosphere. It's felt before it's understood. Younger women may not articulate it clearly, but they experience it as ease, as safety, as intrigue. They lean in not because you demand attention, but because you don't need it. And here's the crucial part. Calm is not something you perform. It's something you cultivate. It comes from knowing who you are, what you value, and what you're willing to tolerate. It comes from having a life that doesn't collapse when someone's attention fluctuates. Without that foundation, calm becomes suppression, and suppression eventually leaks. True calm is congruent. It matches your inner state. When a woman says she feels relaxed around you, when she notices your composure, when she comments on your restraint, she's responding to alignment. Your inner world and outer behavior are in sync. That coherence is rare, and rarity attracts. The final insight is simple but demanding. If you want to be perceived as attractive, stop trying to manage outcomes. Start managing yourself. Build a nervous system that doesn't panic at silence, that doesn't chase reassurance, that doesn't confuse urgency with importance. Because the man who can remain calm in the presence of desire is the man desire learns to trust. Most men overestimate the power of looks and underestimate the power of the mind. They believe attraction begins and ends with appearance, that if you're good-looking enough, interest is automatic and sustained. But attraction doesn't work like that, especially not for younger women. Looks may open the door, but they don't decide whether someone stays. What keeps attraction alive is mental stimulation, the feeling that being around you activates thought, emotion, and curiosity in a way that doesn't fade once the initial novelty wears off. When a younger woman says, "You make me think," she's revealing something critical. She's telling you that you've interrupted her mental autopilot. Most interactions are predictable. Conversations follow scripts. People say what's expected, respond how they're supposed to, and disappear from memory shortly after. When you make someone think, you've stepped outside that script. You've introduced a new perspective, a new rhythm, a new way of seeing something familiar, and the mind doesn't let go of that easily. Psychologically, the brain is drawn to unresolved patterns. If you say something that challenges her assumptions, reframes her experiences, or asks a question she hasn't considered, her mind continues the conversation even after you're gone. That's when attraction deepens. Not in the moment of talking, but in the quiet moments afterward, when she replays what you said and wonders why it stayed with her. This is why mental stimulation is more powerful than constant affirmation. Compliments feel good, but they don't engage thought. They're consumed and forgotten. Insight, by contrast, lingers. A man who offers perspective instead of praise becomes memorable. He's not trying to win approval. He's expressing how he sees the world. That authenticity invites engagement rather than validation. Younger women are especially responsive to this because they're often surrounded by men who either perform confidence or seek reassurance. Conversations become transactional. Either the man is trying to impress or he's trying to be liked. Both approaches center on outcome. Mental stimulation, however, comes from presence, from curiosity, from being genuinely engaged with ideas rather than reactions. This also explains why playfulness and teasing are such strong signals of attraction. When a woman teases you, she's not just flirting. She's testing cognitive agility. Can you respond without defensiveness? Can you keep up without overpowering? Teasing creates a mental dance. It requires timing, restraint, and awareness. Men who understand this don't rush to escalate or prove anything. They stay in the moment. They enjoy the exchange. And that enjoyment creates emotional resonance. There's a philosophical dimension here as well. Attraction grows where there is mutual recognition. When you engage someone's mind, you're saying, "I see how you think, and I'm inviting you into how I think." That exchange creates equality. It's not one person performing for the other. It's two perspectives meeting. Younger women, particularly those who are perceptive, value this because it feels like connection rather than consumption. Another important phrase to pay attention to is when she asks thoughtful questions about your views, your decisions, or your values. This isn't curiosity for information's sake, it's curiosity for orientation. She's trying to understand how you make sense of the world. That's deeper than surface attraction. It's an evaluation of compatibility at the level of meaning. Men who respond honestly, without over-explaining or posturing, create depth without pressure. Mental stimulation also requires the courage to have opinions, not loud opinions, not rigid opinions, but considered ones. When you speak thoughtfully about something you care about, you reveal structure, you show that your inner world has shape. That's attractive because it signals direction. A man with no internal framework is difficult to connect to because there's nothing to engage with. Younger women sense this intuitively. At the same time, mental stimulation doesn't mean constant debate or intellectual dominance. That's another common mistake. Attraction doesn't grow from proving you're right. It grows from exploring ideas together, from asking questions that open rather than close, from listening deeply and responding with intention. When a woman feels mentally met rather than mentally managed, interest expands. This is where many men confuse intelligence with stimulation. Intelligence can be impressive, but stimulation is interactive. It's not about displaying knowledge. It's about creating movement in thought. You can do that with a simple observation, a reframing, or a well-timed question. The goal isn't to impress, it's to engage. Younger women often live in environments saturated with information but starved of meaning. They're exposed to constant noise, opinions, and content. A man who brings clarity rather than chaos stands out. Someone who can slow a conversation down, add depth without heaviness, and invite reflection without pressure creates a unique emotional experience. That experience becomes associated with him, and here's the critical point most men miss. Mental stimulation compounds over time. Physical attraction is immediate but static. It either exists or it doesn't. Mental attraction grows. The more interactions you have, the more layers are revealed. This creates a sense of discovery, and discovery is addictive. People don't chase what they already fully understand. They chase what continues to unfold. This is why silence can be powerful when paired with substance. You don't need to fill every gap with words. If what you say has weight, pauses enhance it. Younger women notice this. They feel the difference between someone who talks to be heard and someone who speaks when there's something worth saying. That discernment is attractive because it signals confidence without arrogance. There's also an ethical dimension to this. Mental stimulation respects autonomy. It doesn't manipulate, it doesn't coerce, it invites. When you engage someone's mind, you allow them to choose interest rather than being pushed into it. That choice creates genuine attraction rather than compliance. When a woman says she enjoys talking to you, when she brings up past conversations, when she references something you said days or weeks ago, she's showing you that you've occupied mental space. That's not accidental. That's the result of engagement that went beyond surface level exchange. The challenge for men is this: you cannot fake depth. You can't memorize lines or strategies and expect mental stimulation to follow. It comes from self-reflection, curiosity, and a willingness to think independently. It comes from having a relationship with your own mind before trying to enter someone else's. If you want to be more attractive, don't focus on being more impressive. Focus on being more present. Ask better questions. Offer clearer thoughts. Listen with intent. Allow conversations to breathe, because when you stimulate the mind, you don't just capture attention. You earn interest that doesn't fade when you're no longer in the room. The final piece that brings everything together is something most men resist because it feels counterintuitive. High-value presence is not built through pursuit, explanation, or reassurance. It's built through restraint, through the ability to stay centered when attraction appears, rather than rushing to secure it. This is where many dynamics collapse. not because interest wasn't there, but because the man couldn't tolerate the uncertainty that attraction naturally creates. When a younger woman shows interest, subtle or clear, most men feel a surge of urgency. They want to lock it in, define it, confirm it. They mistake momentum for progress. But attraction doesn't deepen through pressure. It deepens through space. And space is only comfortable for someone who is internally anchored. High-value presence is not about acting unavailable or playing games. It's about genuinely not needing immediate validation to feel whole. When you don't chase reassurance, you communicate self-sufficiency. You show that your life is already full, structured, and meaningful. Younger women are drawn to this because it signals that you're not looking to be completed. You're inviting, not requesting. One of the clearest markers of this presence is how a man handles silence. Silence terrifies men who rely on reaction for self-worth. They rush to fill gaps with jokes, messages, explanations. But silence, when held calmly, becomes a mirror. It allows attraction to surface on its own. Younger women often use silence as a test, consciously or not. They want to see if you panic, pursue, or remain grounded. The man who remains steady passes without knowing there was an exam. This is why over-explaining is so damaging. When you justify yourself too much, you signal doubt. You suggest that your value needs to be defended. High-value presence doesn't argue for its worth. It assumes it. That assumption isn't arrogance, it's alignment. Your actions, boundaries, and consistency do the speaking. Another mistake men make is trying to be constantly available. Availability feels generous, but unlimited availability feels empty. When you have direction, responsibilities, and commitments, your time becomes meaningful. Younger women don't want to feel like the center of your existence. They want to feel chosen within a life that already has purpose. That distinction is critical. One feels flattering at first, but becomes heavy. The other feels exciting because it's earned. High-value presence also shows up in how you respond to interest without exploiting it. You don't rush intimacy. You don't escalate to prove desirability. You allow attraction to build organically. This patience communicates confidence in the process. It tells her you trust that interest will grow without force. Philosophically, this is respect. You're allowing her agency rather than trying to control the outcome. There's also a deep psychological safety created when a man doesn't chase emotional highs. Younger women are often navigating fluctuating emotions of their own. When they encounter someone who doesn't ride every wave, who doesn't amplify intensity unnecessarily, it creates balance. That balance is attractive because it stabilizes the dynamic. You're not adding noise to an already complex emotional environment. High-value presence means you're selective with your energy. You don't invest deeply without reciprocity. You notice effort. You respond proportionally. This isn't calculation, it's awareness. When a woman senses that your attention is intentional rather than automatic, it carries weight. It feels earned. And what is earned is valued more than what is given freely. Another subtle aspect is how you handle interest that fades or fluctuates. Men who panic when attention dips reveal dependence. Men who stay composed reveal independence. Attraction is not linear. It rises and falls. The man who understands this doesn't take every shift personally. He doesn't chase emotional spikes. He remains consistent. That consistency, over time, builds trust. High-value presence also requires honesty with oneself. If you're constantly seeking external validation, no strategy will save you. Presence comes from a life that is internally coherent. Your words match your actions. Your boundaries match your values. Younger women are highly perceptive to incongruence. They feel when a man is performing rather than being. Performance exhausts, presence grounds. One of the most powerful things a man can do is allow attraction to exist without trying to possess it. This creates tension of the right kind, not anxiety but anticipation. When you don't rush to label or secure, you allow space for curiosity to deepen. Curiosity thrives where there is openness, not closure. This doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means being warm without being needy, engaged without being attached to outcome, interested without being invested prematurely. That balance is rare, and rarity amplifies attraction. At a philosophical level, this is about sovereignty. The man who governs himself doesn't seek control over others, he invites connection rather than demanding it. Younger women respond to this because it feels like freedom, not obligation. Desire grows where choice exists. When you stop chasing, something shifts. Your posture changes, your tone changes, your reactions soften. People feel less pressure around you. And paradoxically, that lack of pressure makes you more attractive, not just romantically, but socially. Presence becomes your signature. The men who are most compelling are not the loudest or the most impressive. They are the most centered. They don't rush life. They don't rush people. They understand that what's meant to align doesn't need to be forced. And here's the closing truth to sit with. The moment you stop trying to secure attraction and start embodying stability, attraction begins to secure itself around you.